Calvin Meeks. I'm 48. I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay. Who are the major social influences in the country, in your opinion? And who do they manipulate?
I believe Trump is probably the major one, especially right now. Middle America, working class people, and he kind of works on the divide that was already kind of brewing in the country as far as racially between North and the South and East Coast and West Coast. Just like with California, he kind of doesn't even acknowledge California because of the Democratic Party there. I believe Trump is probably the biggest divider right now in the country.
Okay. What is the root of the suppression in our country?
Mostly racism and economics. Racism, some people, it just comes from generations of racism being taught. It's not inherent. Put two little kids together and they're little, they will play with each other. You put two middle-aged men and we're gonna have our guards up because we've been taught both of us are different. Money, I believe that rich is rich and poor is poor, and if you have wealth, you have opportunities that aren't afforded to you had you not had wealth. It used to be education growing up. In the 70s and 80s, it would be education. There's a difference between educated and uneducated. But now you can have wealth and not be educated at all. I believe that's the biggest thing.
Who do you believe gains from the oppression of Black and brown people in America today?
Corporations, the for-profit prisons, the county jails, even your counties, period. Just if you drive with no suspended license, that's $500. What's the difference between that and anything else? Why does it cost $1,000 if I drive with no insurance, that you didn't get in an accident or anything? I believe the major corporations and the government basically are the biggest oppressors in the country.
Okay. Do you remember the first time in your life that you realized you weren't being treated the same as other people because of your race, ethnicity, or social standing?
Twice. In the black culture, you have light-skinned blacks, you have dark-skinned blacks. And that's a big divide, especially, not so much more now, but when I was younger, because I was light-skinned and had good curly hair, and I was going to a predominantly white school, so I would come in the city, in Detroit, and I would get racially profiled from dark-skinned or darker-skinned my people, and then I would go to school, and I was still black, still considered a nigga, and I would go to my all-white school, and I would be racially profiled with those people. So that, and yeah, that's it. What was the other part of the question?
You said you had two parts.
And the first time, and my father took me. My father grew up in Terry, Mississippi. One stoplight, one post office, a general store. He took me down there one summer, and on our way down there, I was probably about 6. And we stopped over at a diner, and I had to go to the bathroom. And my father grabbed me, told me, "Don't go in that bathroom. You gotta go in that bathroom over there." And I was ready. It was said colored bathroom, and I didn't understand that because I was from Detroit, and I didn't. Why can't I use that bathroom over there? My father just told me going in. It was nasty. It was dirty. It was like a hole in the floor. It was horrible. And we got back in the car, and my father explained it to me.
Can you give me one or two times where in your life you've been totally and outright discriminated against?
I got pulled over in Warren, Michigan, on Van Dyke one night coming home from work. Officer pulled me over. It was late at night, and I was in the far lane, and he was in the closest lane. So when we passed each other, our eyes kind of met. He just did a U-turn, and he pulled me over. And we walked up to the window. I asked him why he pulled me over. And he said, get out of the car. He checked the car. He checked my license. He patted me down. He checked the car out and everything. And then he told me to get back in the car. And I asked him, like, what was all that for? Like, why'd you pull me over? I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything. Why'd you pull me over? And he said, it was 1:30 in the morning. I was black. I either was going to have a gun, a warrant, or some drugs. So he just played his odds. And I didn't argue with him or say that. I was just like, wow. Because first he was just that blatant just to tell me that. And then he told me, I'll get you next time. That one took me. And I was working in Madison Heights, Michigan, at my first fine dining restaurant. And I was probably the most skilled server there. And this gentleman told the manager of the restaurant that he didn't care for a colored waiter. He wanted a white person for his waiter. And at this particular restaurant, which I won't say their name, the manager apologized and told me he would get a white server over to him immediately. And I left. I walked out the door. I quit right on the spot.
How is this sort of oppression still lingering in your life today? How does it still affect you? Everyday life.
Everyday life, I think it's different. As I said, I think it's more so to do with finances. Voting rights, I believe in our area, as far as our schools, the gentrification. I believe if you look at the long game, like we're playing checkers and they're playing chess and they're like 4 moves ahead. If you have wealth, if you have some kind of land, you have a little bit more of a holding more so than if you're just out here working a 9 to 5 everyday job. I believe racism still exists. It's perpetrated as a tool to use against people who aren't really black and white, who aren't really knowing. Even and then the racism sometimes with brown people. I've never understood that. You know, with the Hispanics and then the blacks. I know in the prison population, it's a lot of racism. The browns stay in their section, the blacks stay in their section, the whites stay in their section. You got the others. Just believe it's a tool to divide. It's easier to conquer a divided people than it is to have a united front. When the black family was a whole in the early 60s and 70s, and they had all the jobs here in Detroit in the auto industry, we were doing well. There was families. I remember a time when there wasn't any vacant houses in Detroit. I remember when all those streets that are vacant now, all those vacant houses, I remember people lived there. I remember when the schools were good. I remember when you could go to a DPD and it wasn't such a bad thing. I believe systemic racism, destroying the black family, taking the man out of the house, kind of destroyed the black family, and that it was a trickle-down effect of destroying us as a people.
Do you feel pigeonholed into your current situation because of your race and social standing? And do you feel that in America today, you as a black man can break out?
I don't feel pigeonholed. I feel a lot of, me personally, I don't. I feel a lot has to do with education, knowledge, and work ethic. If you work hard enough, you can almost accomplish anything now. But you have to be willing to make the sacrifices and put in the work for it. And I believe as a culture now, everybody is this instant gratification, so nobody really wants to put in the work anymore. Or everybody feels entitled that they deserve it, or it should come to them already. I personally don't feel like pigeonhole. I do feel that if you put in the work, if you do get the education, and if you pay your dues, as they say, you can almost do anything. It can be anything.
Okay. Is racism and the oppression on black and brown people in this country getting better? And if so, and how?
It was getting better. It was kind of stewing. It was on simmer. And it was one of those things that I think nobody talked about. We knew it was there. It'll be subtle things. I believe the social media explosion over the last 10 years helped perpetuate that. I think if you had racist thoughts or ideas and you were isolated or you didn't know how to talk to the people about it, you would kind of keep it to yourself. But then with the onslaught on the internet, you could go on there, you could find other people who felt the same way that you felt. You know, I hate redheads. You hate redheads too. Let's hate redheads. You know, and so it's just, you try to get a group and it's be people, we hate redheads, and they gingers and they take your soul, and you could just come up with all this other stuff that would feed into your already bigotry like beliefs. So you would just, I'm not crazy. They do take your soul. I knew it. So I believe the internet and once again, I mean, Trump he's fueled that. He kind of made like, it's okay to hate. Hate is good. Feel it in your heart. Let that hate out. I think that the political culture right now has made it really almost acceptable to a certain degree to be racist.
Do you feel that you would be in a better socioeconomic situation right now if you're a white man? And just talk about where you think that you and your personal skill set and your characteristics, where would you be if you had white skin right now?
Yes, and that's sad to say, to a certain degree. Chris Rock made a joke about there's a one-armed busboy in this room that wouldn't change places with me, and I'm rich. That's how good it is to be white. I believe I know there's racism, but I think so many people stem on is rich and poor. Because I know, and this might sound hypocritical of me, I know some poor whites that are, way off worse financial predicament than we are, than me personally, me and my family are. But they hate me, and I don't understand how so many people are trumped up about these Mexicans coming in and taking all the jobs. If you want to pick lettuce, my nigga, please, by all means, go ahead. Strawberries, well, I'm not doing it. If you want to go cut grass for $7, by all means, go do it. When's the last time? I mean, now, as far as the immigrants taking the jobs or something like that, it's not. I don't see, them applying at GM getting, as an engineer, unless they're, been Americanized and came through the system, did everything right. So, between white and black, I still think it's more about rich and poor, about wealth and not having wealth. If I was a white man, you have to say if I was born into a white family, it would more so do with my social standing. My father was what were we gonna say? My dad did the scummiest job, and when we grew up and we were poor, and my sister was my girlfriend, was my cousin, and no, I probably wouldn't be, but given where I come from and our standard of living, I do believe that everything's equal as of right now.
Do you feel like this system can exist forever the way it is? Is it an eternal
There's
stalemate?
always been systems of class. So I think in the next 15, 20 years, I think it is going to be more about rich and poor as opposed to black and white. Once again, bringing up individual one, he says he's not racist. I don't think he thinks he's racist. Kanye West is rich. I like him. Ben Carson is rich. I like it. Ben Carson grew up in the projects, and he can't tell you anything about the projects now because he's out of that class. He's not in that class anymore. His mindset is totally different. You know what I'm saying? Before he was worrying about eating, now he's worrying about, I got to put fuel in my plane. This is ridiculous. Have you seen the prices of fuel for just this month? It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, I'm trying to pay Comcast. You know what I'm saying? So I believe it's more about like your social standings and your economics of that point in time. 20 years from now, I believe it's going to be so much, especially with all the everybody having kids with other races, Asians, Hispanics, everybody. I mean, we got a prince over in England that's mixed. If you just told somebody that 40 years ago, they would have said blasphemy. They would have never believed that. So I do believe that the intermixing of all of the cultures and races is going to kind of make it hard, unless maybe all the mixed people start hating the not mixed people. That could happen.
All right, cool. Thank you.